Hey, what's going on, everybody? Josh Powers here, tuning in live from Oahu. Welcome to all of you, and thanks for joining me on my favorite part of most Saturdays, all Saturdays now, since we've been doing this whole COVID-19 thing, which is this distributed leader professional development series. I'm so happy to have you guys here with me, to be interacting with all of you as we continue to learn, to grow, to experience, and to interact with each other. So for today, a big treat for us. My guest today is Coach Anthony Spadaro. Coach, if you want to go ahead and open up your unmute and open up your camera, we'd appreciate it.
Hey, aloha, feel great leaders. What's happening?
Hey, it's good to see you today. Good to have you on and see your smiling face here in Oahu. How's your day going so far?
Hey, we're in Hawaii. So to everyone else that's tuning in, someone has to go serve in Hawaii.
Yeah, true statement. And we've got a ton of folks on from Hawaii as well. I've seen Phil Blaisdell tune in. I've seen Ryan down there as well. So a bunch of the Oahu team that are tuning in also. Hey, so for the team, I'm just going to describe the way that the session is going to work, and then we're going to jump right into it. So there's the 3 layers. I always talk about this. It's always fun to describe. The first layer is the close-in layer here with the team inside of Zoom. So for those folks, I see the chat going already. I see Dave Zelaya just said aloha and cheers. Thanks, Dave. Good to see you. So if you're in the webinar, go ahead and interact there in the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from, what your job is, whatever you've got going. If you're having a drink, let us know what you're drinking for sure. The next layer out is Facebook Live. So I will monitor the Facebook Live and I'll keep tabs on that as well. So if you've got questions, discussion points in Facebook Live, do us a favor and drop them in there. We'll have a look and we'll continue to engage. What's also big is if you hit the like and the share button on Facebook Live, you can help us get the word out and on the street. So please help us do that. And then the last layer, if you're watching this recorded, you're watching it either on Facebook or on YouTube. So for YouTube, please hit follow and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're going to continue to grow that and have that as a tool that's available for all of you leaders out there. I see Kara down in the down there, which is pretty awesome. I see Robert Irvine, which is pretty amazing. Welcome to you, good sir. Thanks for being in the group, and appreciate you being here. All right, so that's kind of the big lead in that I'll give to you. And right up front, Coach, the last time you and I talked, it's been a little over a year, maybe a year and a half. You were in uniform and you were the command senior enlisted leader for Indo-PACOM. So you look a little bit different now. Tell us what's going on in your world.
Wow, Josh, so good to see you, man. And that was one hell of a session we had then. And wow, just what we were speaking about, but a little bit of a change. General Mattis said it best. We all have a shelf life, and mine expired after 34 years, 11 months, and 28 days on 1 April. And so you can see where this is my taking it to the man approach after this many years, is that I wanted to see if I could finally grow some hair and see if I could just stop shaving for a couple of weeks. So it kind of came in. So this is my taking it to the man after all that time. So yes, I officially retired from the Marine Corps on that day. And I retired out of, as the Indo-PACOM Command Senior Enlisted Leader, probably the coolest position one could have. And what a way to capitalize and capstone that career. So now to the crowd, it's coach. And Josh, I'm glad you picked up on it. And why I'm using that term is that, Sergeant Major, Command Senior Enlisted Leader, that was just a billet description. That was just the rank description of what I was doing. But that was never who I truly was as a human being, I thought, in the military. And I like to think that I was a coach. And now I've transitioned to being a full-time coach. Now, I'm not coaching a sports team where you normally hear that term coach. I like to think I'm back to coaching world-class athletes, and that's our men and women in uniform. So part of what I've done, Josh, into my transition is I've taken on some really cool positions. And one primarily is as an adjunct faculty member at the Marine Corps University. And I literally think I'm coaching world-class warriors. And that's why I like that new moniker, coach. So aloha.
Yeah, that's outstanding. And you hit on it, which is a pretty important point. 34 years in uniform. You're a command sergeant major. You're the most senior that you can be as an enlisted dude in the Marine Corps. And then, the next day you're no longer in uniform. And when I talk, I think we all do this to a point. When we say, if somebody says to me, who are you? I usually start with something in my duty description. And I just would be really interested here for you, who are you? You're a coach, which you hit to, but all of these other factors that are important to you. And the day that you took off your uniform, those things continued on. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, full disclosure, it was difficult because my identity was so wrapped up, for that time period of just, being a Marine, being in the military, this lifestyle that most of this audience have sworn an oath to uphold and defend. So it's kind of weird the day that, now you can't get called back into the game of war fighting. And I think that was a difficult part now, and I'm still dealing with it. And I'm going to be very open with this discussion we have today, some of the things that you have to look through in transition, because it's just not easy. You just don't stop. So it's not like a light switch that you turn off and on about who you are and what defines you as a person. It's all the whole thing on archetypes, and these archetypes we have fulfilled in the warrior class. So I like to, yes, I'm still in that warrior archetype, just not wearing a uniform, just, won't get the phone call to go and serve alongside men and women of character and competence and of value. So I'm still dealing with it, Josh, and I'm trying to find some of those answers. It's only, it's a month in right now that I realize that, I'm not, serving. And that was the one thing I want to stress to the audience here is I think anyone in the military today, you have not worked one day in your entire career. No, you have served. And I always said that I never went to work for that entire time I served. I went to serve. And Josh, that's what you're doing every day. And, I even saw, Ryan Paulus, who's just one of my new heroes right now. And if you know Ryan and what he's doing, Ryan goes to serve, and he spoke about that the other day. He was very revealing in a couple of Twitter posts. That's at Ryan Paulus, little shameless plug for a brother there. But even like, we said Chef Irvine just popped on, and shameless plug for a very close and dear friend of mine. This guy's going to serve, but those of us, and he wore the uniform as well. So I think that's what everyone, I think, signing on here, we haven't worked. We just go and serve others, and just in a different capacity now. So being self-effacing here and introspective, it's a difficult period now of just not having that uniform unofficially.
Yeah, that's absolutely appreciate your openness on that perspective. I think it's interesting, the moniker, the archetype that you're describing, coach is unique. And I know a couple of other, leaders who have thought of themselves from that perspective versus a leader or a warrior. You choose the word, and for you, it's coach. What is it that appeals to you about being a coach, coaching? What is it that draws you to that title?
Yeah, awesome. What are we doing in the military to begin with when we are in key leadership positions? What do we always hear those byproducts of it? Coaching, mentoring, inspiring. It's all those things wrapped up if you're an effective leader of human beings or motivator of human beings or someone that wants to be involved with someone to make them better. And what do we see from the great coaches, and when you look at that term, so I think I'm kind of stealing, like you said, it's a great way, the archetype of the coach. And, you can think of the great ones that did more than just coach the athletes, they coached character. So, Ryan Paulus and I are both like, old Coach Wooden. He coached some of the greatest basketball teams in history, but he was also coaching character. The same way we could look at some famous football coaches out there, or name the sport, they coached character. And, there's a great book, I think we all shared about this, Legacy by James Kerr, and he was saying the same thing, is that you can make someone good to great in, say, in a task-oriented area. So in the military, we could take someone with a specific job and we could get them from good to great. But it's that aspect of inspiring character, and how do we coach character and get to that points of character. So that's why I think we've got to take that moniker on, that we are actually coaching, if you believe you're a leader. And that's any form. I mean, this could be a specialist 4. This could be an airman first class, petty officer, sergeant, name the rank, second lieutenant, first lieutenant, you're going to be a coach.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a perspective. It isn't about a rank. It isn't about a position. It isn't about a job. It isn't about a duty. It's about your perspective on how you see yourself and how you interact with other people, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, is some people get tied up in the ego of rank. And Josh, I'm sure you've seen the same people that I've seen, that they put that rank, and to each one, it's a penultimate rank they get associated with. And like I've told people before, when you die, people really don't care what the last job you had. It's what difference did you make to them in their lives? And I see some people, I was blessed, man. I was fortunate. I still can't believe they promoted me to sergeant major. I can't believe they promoted me to a lot of my ranks. So that was cool. It was, I think, just a recognition that I added more responsibility to my life. And that's how I looked at each rank. It never was getting easier. It was actually getting more difficult as far as time in, time spent, time devoted to the position, and of course, a broad span of responsibilities. But I feel sorry for the people that get tied up into the ego gratification of the rank, instead of just being them first, and the rank associated respect will come.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's, that I think what we see a lot of times, even if it's not, an ego thing, but as we talked about the who are you question, I think we see a lot of folks that get kind of wrapped around the identity of the military, and it's in the same conversation as balance, and then they don't even consider what it looks like at the end and the transition. And I think it would be pretty powerful for the audience to hear from you, kind of your thoughts and your experience in the transition that you've just undertaken.
Yeah. Hey, remember, it's full disclosure, especially with someone like, I can't, Josh, that's what we want is open us. It's been very difficult. And what I mean the transition is as I got it, and everyone's going to go through the right classes, and everything's going to go through it. And again, there was a relief valve, where I will be, quite frank, that you're not getting, late night phone calls, you're not tracking the latest, but yeah, in some ways I missed the daily intelligence read board of what's going on in the world. But I mean, you can watch CNN an hour later and get it all, but you kind of miss that kind of excitement that's brought. So I think the most important thing people should do in the transition, and what I have been doing, is you only want to associate with organizations that have the same ethics and values that you believe in. So, and again, it's a little bit different than some that are going to retire at, say, 20 years, 30 years, or even 35 years. So for this, and part of this transition, the best line I could tell you is one that General Dunford used to say. And he says, it's not just about relationships, it's all about relationships. And what I'm trying to say to the crowd is foster those relationships. Because these are if you maintain these wonderful relationships with people, then the transition is going to be seamless. And, I could owe it to my friends, John Wayne Troxel, our former senior enlisted advisor to the chairman, CSM, helping me, because we were transitioning at the same time. And really to understand, I had a battle buddy going through that. There's another guy, CSM Pat McCauley, that finished out as the Special Operations Command Senior Enlisted Leader. It's true to keep those friends close to you that really help you with the transition, that can identify days when you're not at your best to go and get the help you need. And you have to be able to ask for the help. I will tell to a lot of the warriors out there that, especially ones that have been in traumatic situations, to go see the brain health people. I can't stress that enough, because you may think you're okay. And I had a good buddy, Colonel Eric Dill, out there now's running a distillery out here in Kailua that's doing great. And but it was a chance meeting, Josh, with Eric at the hospital at Tripler. And he said, "Hey man, have you checked out your brain health?" And I kind of went, "Nah, man, don't have to worry about brain health." And he's like, "Dude, go get your head checked out." Yeah, and I'm glad I did. So I can't stress that enough to a lot of the warfighters out there that have been exposed to direct blasts, flying Gustavs or flying sniper rifles to the 50 cals, or just when you think, hey, you know what? It's a checkup. And if it reveals nothing, good. And if it reveals something, better, get it fixed. So I know I get a long answer with the transition. The other things too, I tell you, Josh, is understanding your value. And I know there's a lot of things, there's a lot of groups out there. If people aren't taking advantage of these opportunities, the skill bridges, the internships, man, if you're not taking advantage of that, then no, the jobs aren't going to come. I'll give it to you because I'm going to collect some thoughts on this, because I can keep going because it's been a weird time. I kind of waited to the last minute, which you're not supposed to do. But, just because of the position I was in.
Yeah, it's absolutely, and what you described, getting your head checked, going to see the brain doc, I think is so important. A lot of us, even the theoretically younger guys and gals, we all started out at a time, or a lot of us started out at a time when that wasn't okay, right? When it wasn't a thing to go get your head checked or talk to somebody. Or whatever. I remember, the first go round in Iraq, in the early days, 2004 for me, and you just didn't talk about it. It wasn't normal. And I think being in a place now where guys like you, who have been there and done that in all of the places, can openly say that it's okay. I think it's just so important to keep reinforcing that to everyone at every opportunity we have.
Yeah. There's a great guy. I don't know if he's signed on, but he's named Glenn Houghton, who's now the SEAC, Senior Enlisted Advisor, over in the United Kingdom. And it took a talk by him and John Troxel one day to sit me down and said, go get yourself checked. And I listened to friends. And if you noticed, they're very animated on social media about getting yourself checked out. And they're being open about that. So I think that's what we need more, some more of the senior leadership to be open about this. These are times I remember that, no, we would not say a word, and you suffered in silence. But I think now it's okay not to be okay, because we have the things to have it checked out. You're not going to be exposing it, and it can be done very quietly. But I think the most important part is peer-to-peer. Someone who's sitting you down and saying, dude, go get checked. And that's the thing, is I always trusted, not a big fan of the term mentorship. I'm more enamored by the term friendship, because you want to know something, Josh? You listen to your friends.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's I think it's a huge point that is important now too. I've nailed this one. I'll nail it here. I try to make the point every week. In the environment that we're currently in, with COVID and social distancing and the feelings of isolation, that could never be more important, perhaps, other than when we're deployed. Same point here is you've got a buddy check, peer check, whatever you want to call it, with your people now, because there are people out there that are struggling with this whole thing, and they're scared. And even if it's just a Zoom call and you're looking in the eye and you're talking to them, you got to do it, right?
Yeah. And I think, I know we're doing this to a degree, and troubling, it took COVID for people to start looking out for people. And I hope we break this paradigm now that this was what's right. I know I'm kind of embarrassed too that I've done it. I've reached out a little bit more because understanding this COVID thing, and I, always racking myself with self-doubt. I think any of us in leadership positions will do is this reflection time. And, I'm reflecting like, damn it, Spadaro, I'm reaching out more because of this COVID. Why didn't I do this before more? So if there's any learning point that after COVID, do it more.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. It was, probably not the best conditions, but it is, since we're doing it, let's keep it going. So a couple of random comments here I just want to address. One is actually from Ryan and someone else who I don't see where it went, that's asked if I was drinking an Appletini. I'm not. This is not an Appletini. It's just cold brew coffee. I would drink an Appletini. It would probably be lovely, but that's not what I'm drinking. And then also I would like to just highlight again, we're going to do questions here in a minute with a multitude of audiences. So if you have a question, put it over in the Q&A, and I'll bring those ones. I'll bring those forward here in just a couple minutes. Those top questions. So, Coach, I want to ask you kind of your thoughts on the transition, and now a month out or so. What are the things? Two-part question. So, what are the things that don't feel right? Not putting on a uniform, not putting on your boots. So that's going to be the part one that still kind of get to you. And then what are the things that feel totally right, i.e. not shaving, or, what are the things that are refreshing after those 34 years?
Awesome. All right. What doesn't feel right? I got to tell you, not getting a haircut and shaving, is one of those, it was axiomatic type things that had just occurred every day or every couple of days. And then what feels right? Not getting a haircut and not shaving. No, and tongue in cheek. And I'm deflecting. What doesn't feel right? I can't really answer that yet, because everything is kind of pure, because this is the one thing I wanted to make sure I left out on, Josh, is that there is someone to replace me. And, who replaced me was this phenomenal person, Command Sergeant Major Shane Shorter. So I don't have to worry about the last position. No. So what feels right is that in our military, I firmly believe this, is that we have our replacements ready to take the mantle of what we're doing. And so that's the big thing is, how do we train our replacements? And it's not like you're training them directly. I think a lot of it is by osmosis, that we pay attention to these other great leaders and hopefully carry on their things. And I think about one thing that General Dunford used to say. He said, when he was a second lieutenant, he had a lot of confidence, but little experience. And when he finally got to the penultimate position of chairman, he had a lot of experience, but that self-confidence racked with self-doubt. And I think that's one of the things that when you do leave the service, that kind of lifting of that self-doubt now kind of is gone. And you have to start looking, okay, how could I still serve to make the service better? And those young men and women, and how can I put myself into positions or take on jobs that I continue to serve the men and women? And I think that now fulfills that archetype that we're talking about, Josh, is that how do I fulfill myself? So what doesn't feel right? Nah, I'm good. What feels right is that making sure I'm leveraging my experiences now into other positions that I can continue to serve those outstanding men and women in uniform today.
Okay. Awesome. I appreciate your candor and your thoughts there. And so with that, we're going to start working some questions from the live studio audience here. So again, if you've got a question, if you're in the webinar, drop that in the Q&A and we'll work through a few of those. If you're on Facebook Live, same thing. I'll just pull a couple of those out. We'll bring them in. So I'm going to start out with Ian Palmer, who I've just given mic privileges to. And if you want to unmute and go ahead with your question.
Hey, Coach, thanks for spending some time with us. You touched on this a little bit already, but I guess I'm getting into the twilight of my career as well, and this thought has been on my brain quite a bit. And that's what was the flash to bang between when you decided to retire and when you actually retired, whether that be drop in packet or day of retirement? And then what would you say the most valuable thing? I know there's a litany of things that you did to prepare. What would you say the number one most valuable thing was to help your transition into retirement?
Wow. Hey, Ian, thanks, man. Thanks for that question. I had to do it, I had to follow the orders. So I'm not trying to do a deflect on here, but you're supposed to, you have 4 to 14 months. So I put it out, that 14-month period of realizing when I would be out of the position as the Indo-PACOM C-cell. So I was gifted. It was normally a 36-month billet. I was allowed to extend that due to the transition from Admiral Harris to Admiral Davidson to get some more time. So right when to work that time period that I could almost get the 2 years with Admiral Davidson, that's when I dropped my papers by the orders, because I was allowed to go past 30 years. And that's just as a function of the services allowing selected members, enlisted, to go back 30 years, depending on the billets they're holding. So mine was 14 months out. Quite frankly, I was delaying the inevitable, and I was doing what I was supposed to. So transition readiness seminars, can't stress enough for the senior people there to go to the senior transition readiness seminars. And I know like the Army's is done out of Fort Leavenworth. There's a great one for the Marine Corps at Henderson Hall. Phenomenal. All services can go to this one. So you want to go to the more senior ones, and going a bunch of times, because the first time you go to transition readiness, I think you go in denial, and you're listening to all these things. You're like, well, wait a minute. And they make you put suits on and dress up, and they bring image consultants, and little weird. It's almost Jabberwocky. It's when you go back and you realize you go home, you show your spouse all these questions, and then your butt goes back the second time and you're actually taking detailed notes. And then I would recommend a third time just to solidify. It's mostly it's the stuff that you're eligible for the VA and the things to learn about, because man, there's a plethora of things. Also, it's they're going to talk to you about the LinkedIn and getting out there, but I was having a problem. I didn't want to do anything while I was wearing the uniform at the workday to handle my transition. I'm a good Catholic boy, and I wonder if Pat Donahue's out there, Major General, we went to the same high school. We get racked with guilt that, hey, I'm serving, I'm wearing a uniform. How can I do transition stuff? I don't feel good about this. And so, I was trying to find times, at night, the weekend, doing a bunch of reading, but mostly, Ian, I have to go back to this one. It's the relationships. And the coolest thing is when I was retired is the people that called me. And, if it was something that aligned to my values, I jumped on it. So I think it's a little bit different, Ian, for someone with 35 years in, depending with, say, someone with 20.
Got it. Great. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, brother.
All right. Thanks for the question there. So we're going to go ahead and shut him down. And then next up, we're going to come over to Nick Berry. So Nick, if you could unmute and go ahead with your question.
Can you hear me now?
You are good, sir.
Cheers, sir. So just a question in reference to your long career, impressive career, and noting that you've only been out for 1 month, have you had time to think back on your career and almost unravel as a bit of an AAR and see how you can take lessons learned and use that to benefit the next warrior leaders? And to note, is there key areas you know now that you wish knew back at the start of your career that could potentially shape young minds, characters, leadership traits? Cheers, sir.
Hey, Nick, man, thank that Gadoha first. That's an old term I learned from Admiral Harris, is how we miss aloha and good day together. So Gadoha. But more importantly, this is what I'm doing. I call this atoning for my sins, Nick. And what I'm doing is I'm an adjunct instructor at the Marine Corps University, and I'm allowed to teach our sergeants, our staff sergeants, our gunnery sergeants. I was doing it in person, but due to COVID, it's online right now. But this is how I'm atoning for my sin. So I'm getting now to be in front of these wonderful young men and women, or our sergeants, our staff sergeants, our gunnery sergeants. That's the E5, E6, E7 in the American rank system. And as I said, it's atoning for sin. So, I'm going out there. I don't let them call me Sergeant Major. I was telling Josh, they don't call me Mr. They call me Coach, because I think I'm coaching these world-class athletes. So this is how I'm trying to, all the miscues that I might have done over 35 years, I want to make sure that these sergeants, staff sergeants, gunnery sergeants do not make the same mistakes. So that's how I'm giving back. It's one of my side gigs, is I'm teaching, and man, it's so much fun.
Nick, any follow-up, or are you good?
Yeah, no, it's pretty much what I'm trying to, I guess, get the next little scratch on the surface. So you're obviously working at that Marine Corps University. Can you just explain, like, out of that 34-year career, is there a couple of key areas that you kind of wish you knew back, 34 years ago and what you know now is something that you're trying to, even in this month, have you spoken to the next board?
Yeah. Wow. Nick, the infamous do-overs. Boy, if we ever got do-overs, where would we be in life if we got do-overs? Yeah, there's a lot of do-overs, and I don't think we have enough time. I mean, get me a cold pint and I would talk do-overs with you. But one of the things, I'm not going to look back. I'm only going to look ahead, and I'm not saying this as a deflection, but I think as far as finding the wholeness and wellness of me, hey, that was then. And I just want to make sure if there was mistakes along the way, I truly hope I didn't really hurt people along the way. And I truly want to know that did I serve some young men and women the right way. So no do-overs, man. So just make sure you don't make the mistakes. There's a good term. I know we're on open line here. There's another term that you can say, and I know Josh is laughing. It's know something. And yeah, that we don't allow that. So yeah, no, that's how I look at it, Nick.
Yeah, cheers. Most appreciated, sir.
You got it, brother. Thanks, man. Cheers.
All right, thanks, Nick. So next we've got 2 questions rolling over from Jim Field. So Jim, you can go ahead and in either order that you'd like to.
Okay, I'll do 2 quickly. So you mentioned perspective earlier, and it's something that I've been thinking a lot about, like almost as a superpower. I think perspective has become for me. So how did it change over time through the course of your career, and how did that change the way you led or advised your boss? And then the second part is your favorite failure.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Jim. That's wow. Okay, got to think quick too here, man. There's so many. Now, perspective. What perspective was shaped by is thankfully I got to serve alongside some phenomenal leaders, men and women, some phenomenal Marines that really just. You'd look at these men and women and I was like, man, this is who I want to be with. And it was always people of great character. And I could give you a long list. Like we were talking one day, if I had to do the forward of my book and who are these great names that I would put there that really shaped me. And they're the ones that gave me perspective on mostly, believe it or not, was on educating myself. And it was always this seeking more education. This is one thing I can't stress to the true warrior scholar out there is this need to educate yourself. And I'm just not talking in our professional military education realms. I'm talking even out of that. And when I'm talking out of it, it's more of the philosophy, the art of understanding what we do because we're leading people. And it's also understanding adversaries. Are we really truly studying the enemy? And we used to do that so well in the Halcyon days when we had the Soviet Union as an enemy. So perspective-wise, it was these wonderful folks out there that really pushed me to get smarter every day. Was it reading another book and an article? And oh, by the way, finding the time to sit down with me and then questioning me and openly and going after a Socratic mythology of a question answer to make me grow. So there was where I gained a lot of perspective. Failure, yeah, I failed a couple of people along the way, and I failed it because I let my ego get involved. And specifically when I was serving on the drill field, I have a couple of tours serving as a drill instructor. And I lost the perspective and I put my standards ahead of what should have been institutional standards. And along the way, I might have hurt some people. And I'm not talking this is the hazing type stuff. I'm just talking my demands might have exceeded what should have been, what was an institutional standard. And I've done that other times too, just on the drill field. And I'm sure some of you have done there, is that you start to impose your own standard. And when you cloud your standard to what someone else has said there's a military standard, you fail people because you're not looking at the bigger, broader picture. So I think as I got older, I started to understand strategy and grand strategies and understanding. So I got out of the tactical thinking, and I think that's what we do. When you do tactical thinking, guys, when you're a corporal, when you're a sergeant, when you're a PTL, when you're a platoon commander, when you're a section OIC, that's tactics. But when you start getting to Josh's level, and Josh got this down, or the Ryan Pauluses out there, man, you better start thinking strategic and grand strategy. And you know what, field grades, you are grand strategists, because I could give you the examples of history when field grade officers have changed grand strategy. So that's would be my big call for you, and maybe making up, I should have worked harder, Jim, to excite some more field grades to start thinking as grand strategists. Whoa, mic drop.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, that was good. I'm sorry. I didn't know if I was still talking or not. No, I really appreciate it. I think it's amazing. You know, I did things as a young platoon leader that I cringe, you know, in hindsight. And that's because I just didn't know any better. There are life experiences that I have now that I didn't have then. And that's part of perspective and, you know, failures. I think it was a great response, and I appreciate the time. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, Jim.
All right. Hey, so next up, this one just kind of falls right in line with your previous discussion of learning, and you know, you described learning from a variety of methods. So this one is over to Ryan Powell, who I think knows you because the question is a good question for you. Ryan, go ahead.
Coach Josh, thanks for having me. Coach, quick question for you.
What's up,
What
bro?
is, for everybody on the net, what is the one book you would recommend to all of us that we need to read?
Oh, Ryan. This is a setup. Okay. Once an Eagle. You know, I'm going to always go with Once an Eagle. I'm going to stick with Once an Eagle. You know, God bless it took a Marine to write it, you know, to finally make this Army look good. It's just by one digging, my service dig out there, but it took a Marine to make the Army look good. But no, there's so much, man. God, I would love to have an open discussion one day, and Ryan, Josh, you and I, and even if we just had an open one on Once an Eagle, because still I go back to that book a lot just to reflect. You know, of course, though, Ryan, if I'm going to say Once an Eagle, I still have to say A Country Such as This by James Webb. And the way you keep writing, Ryan, you're going to eclipse James Webb. But that's the main book. We're always going to go with Once an Eagle. Okay. You got me out there on that, on my markers. And we could talk other books if we have enough time, but did you catch me, Ryan?
I did. Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome, brother. I knew that one was coming.
Hey, so while we're on that topic, let's just jump to it though. So what are you reading right now? Because the last time we talked, you ran me through all these books. What are you reading now? That's the key question.
Yeah. Hey guys, that's to everyone out there. You know, General Mattis said it best. You know what I mean? If we're not reading, we're functional illiterates. So that was one thing when I heard General Mattis say that a long time ago. You know, I really kicked my reading into overdrive. But I mean, I started doing a great colonel I had when I was a sergeant. But right now, two really cool books. The first is called One Giant Leap by Fishman, and I really like this book. It's a book that's following a duality of us going to the moon when President Kennedy made the mandate in 1962. But it also follows, this is the last time America was great again, up until 1972, when we had the Apollo program and how we coalesced the thinking of thousands to achieve this goal. Wow, is there parallels or alliteration right now to COVID? We got these people thinking. But the best part about it, I'm just going to steal one line that really put, and we can go back to leadership, and how you get people to achieve a dream, was President Kennedy was at the Johnson Space Center in 1962, and he went up to the janitor. He says, "What are you here for?" The janitor looked right at him and said, "I'm here to put a man on the moon." Wow, I still get chills when I think of that. This is what, where are we like that in America now? That we could coalesce an effort that everyone says, I'm in it to win it. And more importantly, then the follow back to that book. So that was One Giant Leap by Fishman. The next one, though, is now a new book called Loon Shots. And I got this recommendation from Pat McCauley. And this is by Safi Bakal. And the really cool about it is Loon Shots, how to nurture crazy ideas that win wars, cure diseases, and transform industries. And it's really a new way of thinking of group behaviors. And that's what's kind of cool with what's going on. And I really look at why field grades should be reading this book, because we're so involved. You're in planning sessions now. You know, not many field grades, you know, at the major level would get to command. So you're mostly find yourself running OPTs in the threes. So how are you going to encourage this new way of thinking to achieve your goals when everyone's bringing different ideas in? So Loon Shots by Safi Bakal, pretty cool. I don't want to give it away. You all have to read it. I'm not going to give you Cliff Notes versions. So, and again, I don't know the two authors, so I'm not getting anything of it. This is just something I'm reading. So shameless plugs for them, huh?
Awesome. So I've got a dual question. So it is in part from Facebook Live from Erica, who's in Phoenix, and then also from Monica, who dropped this. She's in the room, but her mic is busted. Sorry for that. So they both want to know from a civilian perspective what they can do to assist, or what should they know? What can they do to assist in folks transitioning out of the military? Monica asks it from a DoD civilian perspective. Erica, I think just asking generally, like what things would a civilian need to know, or should know, or could know about us transitioning out of the force?
Oh man, God, to both. Wow, phenomenal. And I can say this, and I got a little bit of an argument with someone this week because I was challenged by my brother, John Troxton, to the 22-day challenge, recognizing veteran suicides. And look, one's too many. And some people wrote me on Facebook and really flamed me. And these people remain silent because these are people I respect, but you have to do this when you open yourself on social media. So look, one is too many. So I just am trying to do something today, awareness, but what the person was trying to drive home is that you can't sit there and put this label on our veterans because they are amazing. And the thing is to give them their voice in transition and to give them the chance. A lot of times people are afraid right away because they say, oh, they're going to have all these issues. Well, shoot, you know why we have these issues? Because we're open about it. And civilians aren't. So you can't tell me that there's civilians out there that doesn't have the same amount of struggles that a transitioning veteran will have that might have been deployed. So give them the chance, actually have the conversation. And you don't, people are relegated to a resume and you say, okay, veteran did this, I'll put them on the other side of the pile. But Josh, you have dealt with these, and this audience have dealt with a lot of these great men and women. Hey, you put them in charge of organizations, they're going to take over. They just want a chance. So that's what I would say is actually have the dialogue. Also get involved. They could reach up if they go to the va.gov specifically, or the Department of Labor. And if you go to the Department of Labor site, there are so many ways that civilians that want to sit there and work with transitioning military veterans, it'll list it right there. And man, there's so many, man, like I said, we don't have enough time. I mean, that's almost another thing. If the two women, Monica, and who else was it? I forgot the name, Monica and
Erica from Phoenix and Facebook.
Monica and Erica, they want to go through us, Josh, and DM correctly afterwards. I could give them the links to how to do this and walk them through that. But I would tell them is that, look, the only thing that you gain when hiring a veteran is they're going to take over one day. And that's the best part about it.
Absolutely. All right. So we're going to go, we've got a couple more questions to go through here. So next up to bat is Mike Levine. This is the broadcast Mike, if I'm not mistaken. Mike, over to you. Waiting for it. He's looking for the microphone button. He doesn't have the microphone button. Okay, I'm going to read his question and I'm going to allow him to continue to scramble. He may have gone to the restroom. It could be any of the things. Mike, are you on now? Okay, no. Okay, so his question is, what is your best advice for leaders to stay connected with the formations they serve? It's hard to understand what it's like living in the barracks, et cetera, when you haven't done it yourself in a quarter century or so. How can you authentically stay in touch? Great question there.
Wow. First off, Mike, great to hear from you. Mike, phenomenal Twitter presence. We're big followers of everything. I loved when you're snarky to you're serious to you name it. So, and you're always quick. So thanks, Mike. And anyone out there, Mike's out there at USFK. So it's about 8 o'clock in the morning for Mike right now. God bless you out there on Sunday. So good Sunday. So hope you're getting ready for Mass. That's what Pat Donahue said. He's going to Mass right now. But to Mike, I don't think this is a hard one because why not the presence in the barracks? I mean, just because we're supposed to do this when we were platoon sergeants and PTLs, why aren't we visiting the barracks? And I'm not saying the little fun ones and jump in, because one and done, they pick up on it. I really hope that this is a constant, leadership by walking around. And I'm sure a lot of us know that. And here's the thing is, Mike, it's getting that battle rhythm, because I can tell you, once you get in more positions like you, your time of the day goes away. So where do you sit there and, you got to, find the time to start this leadership by walking around. And if you do it once, it's disingenuous. And the Joes are going to pick up on it right away and like, yeah, right. But if it's done where it's most natural, and I think the greatest compliment is when like they can't wait to see you. And I'm not saying, you do it every Tuesday at 1300. You keep them guessing, keep them during that time. And just where your presence becomes ubiquitous enough where, hey, they're there. And they feel comfortable, and you'd be amazed at some of the things we get done. So that was the one thing I really missed when I got into the position, because I really didn't have barracks nearby. And so what I'd have to do is every time I went to my town halls, and I would just walk around to the chagrin of my EAs and to the chagrin of whoever was supposed to watch me, and just show up at places and just hang out, you know what I mean? And get the dude, oh, wait a minute, look who's on, my alum.
He got muted.
All right. You heard me talking about him, huh? So I hope that answers to Mike's question.
It does. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Oh, he's on. Mike, what's up, buddy?
Operator error. Yeah, I've got too many microphones in my room, believe it or not.
I bet. We got Major General Donahue. This is so cool.
Hey, Josh, you're muted.
I am muted. There we go. Look at Mike now is solving my mute problems. We're all doing well. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you. All right.
No worries. And now, sir, we're going to go over last question to General Donahoe.
Hey, Josh. Hey, thanks for having me on. Hey, Sergeant Major. Hey, first off, it's a long way from the halls of St. Joe's, Metuchen. So, hey, thanks for the shout out. And I'll tell you, always really hard to follow broadcast Mike, right? I mean, not only does he have a giant head, but he is a force to be reckoned with. Hey, so Sergeant Major, my question is this: you throughout the discussion went back to relationships, and I think it's easy in the military, given our hierarchical grouping, to group our relationships by those we have with superiors, those we have with peers, and those we have with our subordinates. And given the length of time that we serve, what techniques did you develop to maintain those relationships and cultivate those relationships over the course of a career? And again, thanks for your service in Indo-PACOM, and I appreciate you taking DMs from me periodically on Twitter when I was fighting the man at PACOM. So I appreciate it.
Hey, sir. Hey, first off, to everyone out there, God bless you, sir, and those war fighters out at USFK. I had a great phone call with Walt Tagaloosa a couple of weeks ago, just to pump him up, because one, you are the model of how to sit there and respond to something, because you all are on the vanguard. You're going to have to go do some ass kicking on some people. And so, man, what you all have done is just Herculean, but obvious, because when I see that command team out there with the 8th Army, with all of USFK and your partners out there, man, sir, God, put me in, coach. But I realize, like I said, you got Walt out there. You don't have to worry about it. You got Jason Schmidt. How could you go better? So first off, a little love to you, sir. So great to see you, hear from you, and I'm glad we're still engaged in the fun. But to answer your question, General, that's the unique thing and beauty about relationships. I think when you find two people that or three or four, that you just find these commonalities. And I think the things that keep relationships bonded is that you're like-minded. You follow the same body of ethics, same body of values. And, all right, I'm going to throw that term out there. I guess I can. There's no dickheads. So you don't want to associate yourself with those type of people. You only want to associate with those that are going to make you better. We had a saying, General Donahue, that matters to me most from St. Joe's, was where excellence becomes a habit. And I only wanted to be associated with those types of people. How do you cultivate it? That's so weird in the military, because, you're associated with someone for a 3-year tour, you make the greatest, strongest relationships, and what happens? PCS. And then you're separated. Now, in the old days, we didn't have social media. We didn't have Facebook and all this stuff. We had the old dial-a telephone. And you're hoping maybe once in a while when you went to school, you'd see this person. So social media, I think, really does more now to strengthen these relationships. But first off, you want to make sure you make these relationships with people like you or better, because as you associate, you become, winners associate with winners. And I was I think just blessed as you just find these like-minded people. And I think what happens is this paterfamilias type relationship, General, where in the old days, there's a couple of these officers when they were lieutenant colonels and I was a young sergeant, they watched out for me. Some of them went on to become generals. They still watched out for me. They got out of the military. They're still calling me, checking in on me, watching me. So that relation, in the Marine Corps, we had General Lejeun's dictum, father, son, teacher, scholar. I'll change it for the 2000s to say, parent, child, still teacher, scholar relationships. And if you maintain that, and that's the beautiful thing. This is why I love our military. And look at us, General. It was a happenstone meeting a capstone. And look at our relationship now and just going on and what we can do because of it. So it's the relationship I have established with Josh now, which I cherish, that I could still have this inner relationship with Josh and to a larger crowd.
Hey, that's awesome. Thanks, Sergeant Major.
See you on the DM. So I challenged you to that 22-day or two, sir.
I know I'm limited on time.
You can do it.
All right, so we're just about to close out here, and this has been an absolutely exceptional session. Coach, I really appreciate you being here, and I just want to pass it over to you for any closing thoughts or parting shots.
Yeah. Wow, thanks. Again, I could do this all day long, with this great group, and please hit us up to Josh and I on social media, how we can help you or continue to help you. Josh, I think I'm going to turn it back to you because it's about you right now, and what you've been doing. And like I said, and there's a couple others out there that are following your same modality with the field grade leader, and I really appreciate this. And I know there's some people that are so reticent to social media and how we can make this voices. I mean, look how cool it is that I could have these discussions with people that some I don't even know, may never meet, and some I do get to meet and establish relationships. Back to General Donahue's point. So it's about you. And what I want, Josh, is that these field grade leaders to be disruptive futurists, to be strategists, and to really sit there and shape the way our military needs to go. First, to be ready to fight and win, but to primarily win before fighting. And that's, right now, if you understand the PACOM, Indo-PACOM rally cry, that's from Admiral Davidson, my old boss, is, to win before fighting and be ready to fight and win. And I really think I have field grade leaders right now. And when I'm lumping in field grade leaders, I'm also talking about those sergeant first class in the Army, that master sergeant in the Army, same with, associated ranks to the Navy, Marine Corps gunnery sergeant, along the Air Force, the technical sergeant. Be disruptive futurist, be strategist, and shape this way how we are going to fight and win, especially against an adversary that's out in the open. So I do want to get a quick gig on this, Josh, is that we do have an adversary that's out in the open right now. When I first came in, it was the Soviet Union. Well, you know what we did? We won before fighting. A wall came down and the Soviet Union went away because America demonstrated might. Well, I want to see that's how people are thinking now against China, against Russia, against North Korea, against Iran, against ISIS, against COVID. I want people thinking out the box, bizarre, loon shot thinking, coalesce thinking, great thinking against great power competition to destroy these adversaries, to preserve this way of life. Because like I said, my fight's over. So if you're talking about things I regret now, I'm out. I got to sit on the sidelines and cheer you on, because I want to make sure that when it's all done, our fight song is played, Josh, and our fight song is the national anthem. Our flag's getting raised. And am I sounding like a jingoist right now? You're damn right I am. But more importantly, that's what I want you guys to do for us. And when you're general powers and you're going to chuckle and say, yeah, right. Hey, when you're general powers one day, you're sitting in the same office that General Donahue's sitting in, and you're directing how to get this fight ready. That doesn't happen. That's what I want. That you don't have to get into a fight.
Okay, outstanding and great way to close. Coach Anthony, Sergeant Major, all the things together. We really appreciate you being here. I know the entire audience does. And again, to all the folks that are out there that are watching this in those variety of forums, we appreciate you. All of these sessions, these weekly leader professional development sessions are for you. And it's just another way that we can show that we are all truly in this together. That even though COVID is kind of pulling us apart, we still have the opportunity to come together, to talk, to learn, to interact. So again, to reach out to your people. That's your subordinates, that's your peers, that is your boss, that is your family. Check on those people, look them in the eye. And if you don't have anybody to check in on you, then hit me up or hit Coach up on either one of us in our DMs. We'll be happy to talk to you for sure. Let us know what's going on. And that's it for today. We'll be back again next week. Thanks and have a good day.
God bless everyone. Aloha.